Is there a new religion on the rise in the world? Because it seems like today people don't really conform to traditional religions. Of course, some people go to church and people do believe in various things of all sorts. But if you look back in history, you'll see that people historically have believed very fervently in their faiths. And they've been so passionate, in fact, about their faith that they've been willing to kill their neighbors and do all sorts of horrendous things in the name of God. But in more modern times, we kind of moved past that, and people started to be more interested in peace and inclusion and respect of all different ideas, not prioritizing any one over the others. But increasingly now, we see people starting to demonstrate the same religious tendencies in the field of politics and entertainment. Instead of being aware objectively that life is something which doesn't have clear answers necessarily, they have moved on to weaponize their own idea of truth. It has been said that the most dangerous place for you is probably right in your own neighborhood, within a few blocks of your house. That's where you're most likely to get into an automobile accident. And the reason for that is because when you're close to home, you don't think that you're in any particular danger. You feel pretty safe, pretty comfortable. So you let your guard down, and that's when something bad will happen. It's not going to probably be on that cross-country road trip when you're driving down the freeway when something horrendous happens. It's much more likely to be when you're backing out of your own driveway. And it's the same way with ideology. We look back and we judge the past very harshly. We say that people a long time ago were extremely uncivilized and extremely barbaric. And that's true, they were. But then we also add some lies to that paradigm and we start to say, we're different now than what people were before. We have somehow evolved in our minds to be at a higher level than that. And as a result of this self-deception, because the truth is we have the same wiring in our brains, we have the same biology at work, we convince ourselves that there's this past version of humanity which is inferior and barbaric and uncivilized and irrational. And then on the other side, there's us, the pinnacle of human achievement and enlightenment. Truth is, throughout all of history, there has been a certain group of people who have been able to objectively look at the world in a pragmatic way and see the middle way between all things and be respectful of differences and be open-minded about different ways of thinking. And there's always been a big class of people who've been much more focused on believing in things blindly and passionately and in a religious sort of a way. Now today, as the more modern crowd increasingly says that traditional religion is anathema to progress and enlightenment, people turn to things like their favorite sports team or their favorite video game or their favorite political party, and they get really passionate about that instead. And because they think that they're enlightened, they don't see what they're actually doing. And we see this in stories of, for example, the World Cup is won by somebody, and then the people in the country of the team that didn't win go start rioting and destroying things. Why? Nobody cares. It doesn't matter. It literally makes no difference. But to those people, it's not a game. It's a religion. And in political circles, we see the same thing. We see people that are getting more and more interested in their political view gaining dominance. And it isn't just that, we believe in the principle of a democratic republic and we're going to do our civic duty. It's, I need everybody to agree with me, and if people don't agree with me, then they are essentially on the road to hell. And people are sort of coming together around these different ideas and trying to start a crusade. And you have people on the progressive left that are going on crusades trying to say, we have to, change the world in some way to align with our vision of what needs to happen. You have people on the right that are doing that. You have people in all sorts of points of view. I mean, you see this polarization everywhere. Even if we're talking about something silly like a video game channel, just ask people, what's the best game, and you'll have a bunch of people that are tribalists of some particular video game, and they'll all say, how dare you say that, this or that game is not the best one in the genre. And they're forgetting the fact it's a video game. It truly doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. But to that person who's elevated that thing to the level of being something spiritual, they don't know it. They can't see it. And when you can't tell the difference between fantasy and truth, when you are more interested in immersing yourself in something than in objectively knowing whether what you're actually believing is really true or not, it doesn't really matter what it is that you're subscribing to or trying to go to bat for. You're really no different than those same people who, throughout all of the aeons of history, have been ignorant and too self-absorbed in their ideology to even know that they are ignorant. And I think in my personal life, I've come to see a lot of this, and I've believed in a lot of different things over the years, and then I've come to have to face the reality that many of the things I've believed have not been true, or have not been as important as I thought that they were. And it's hard to step back and appraise things honestly, and then have room for people's differences and respect that no one thing needs to take the entire attention of the whole stage. But it's also very important. Pragmaticism does not try to establish one absolutely correct and all-encompassing voice. It includes many voices, and it also is that spirit of liberty which is not too certain that it's right. So as we talk about progressive ideas and focus on inclusion and try to make our lives in the world a better place, it's important for us to remember that sometimes bad ideas just masquerade as good ones and take a different form, but they're the same fundamental bad ideas that have always been there. And that's something we should always try to avoid. Thank you.